Okay, just a few stances for you. First one we'll start off with is Datchi. In fact, we'll start off with Datchi, which is just feet together. So we'll start off with Datchi here. Turn the toes out 45 degrees. That will give us Datchi. And then from this position, don't pivot on the ball of the foot, pivot on the toes, on the big toe. That will give us Datchi, which is about a shoulder width wide, balls of the feet below the shoulders. Next stance, which again we don't really use too much, is called Datchi. Then from this position, we turn the heels out into Datchi, horse stance. And then from this position, we turn the feet out into Datchi, which is sumo stance. From Datchi, as I explained earlier, we can go into Datchi, etc. But first of all, we'll go into Zen Datchi, which is a long stance. 2 shoulder widths long, 1 shoulder width wide, front knee push forwards, back foot slight angle, back leg straight, and I'll show you that now. So from here, 2 shoulder widths long. So don't go too long. Some styles will be down here, but it's virtually impossible to move. So just come up to 2 shoulder widths. If you want to measure your 2 shoulder widths, do Datchi, 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 Chichi-dachi, Kiba-dachi. That Kiba-dachi is 2 shoulder widths wide. Okay, so you can gauge any long stance or wide stance from that position, from that Kiba-dachi stance. You can gauge any short stance or narrow stance from Datchi position. So from here, 2 shoulder widths in length, back leg locked out as much as you possibly can. Don't sit in the stance with your shoulders back. Shoulders should be above the hips, and the knee push forwards. Now, not too far forward, so we're not going to go to this position here, but also not too far back either. If we go knee above the ankle, and then we just go slightly past it. So if we were to hold a piece of string, that piece of string would dangle over the knuckle of the big toe. Front foot turns slightly inwards, hips and shoulders square, guard in position. 70% on the front, obviously 30% on the back. So it's the opposite to Datchi, similar kind of family. Then as we change, we don't come up and down, stay the same height, in and out. And I'll just show you from the front, so that's the 2 shoulders long. Now when you go shoulder width wide, just literally shoulder width wide from ball of the foot to ball of the foot, pushing forwards in the stance. Don't let the front knee collapse. Sometimes when you're blocking over the forward leg, you'll want this to happen because it's easy. But the goal is to keep the knees, like you would in sumo stance, which I'll get into in a second, keep the knees pushed apart so that you can still execute hip in this. If you are too long, too narrow, if the stance is out of measurement at any point, you'll find it difficult to use the hips. And again, when you change, step in, step back. Try not to go up and then down. Not a practical fighting stance, but certainly for Keon, it certainly helps with the leg strength, and it also helps with kata, like first kata, second kata. It's in Saifu, it's in Basai Dai. It's in a lot of Shotokan based stuff because it's a Shotokan based stance. And then the next stance from here will be Kiba-dachi, which is horse stance. So from this position, step your feet together into Datchi, and then you step your feet out 2 shoulder widths. While you're practicing this and you are getting the hang of this, if you want to, just start off Datchi and then go through this every single time, just so you can get just so you can go from this to this without having to think, are my feet in the right position? So from here, weight is centered, feet are pointed forwards, feet are straight forwards, knees are slightly bent, just like you are if you were riding a horse. Not here, but here. Hips, strong forwards, guard in position. And then again, this can be strong in all different directions if it's done properly. Make sure your knees are pushed apart. So again, this is a Shotokan based stance. Next one is a Datchi, sumo stance. All we do with this is we convert the feet to 45 degrees, then we just simply sink. Ideally the knees need to be above the ankles. So not outside, not inside the ankles, but ideally above the ankles. Again, pushing the knees back, hips forwards, guard in position. This again, good for leg strength, good to be holding some weights and walking through. It's just good practice. One thing I tell the kids is eat your breakfast in this stance, just for practice. So you push down. And if at any point in this stance you do feel that it hurts and you're trying to go for a world record, then just come up slightly, shake your legs off, drop it down again. But don't have your hands on your knees. This is cheating. Hands need to be up. Okay, next stance we're going to go into is Sanchin Datchi, which would fall into that category of advanced. Sanchin Datchi, it's a bit like Hiker Datchi, so it's the same width. All we do from this position is Siriachi the feet in and out. Back foot, if anything, straight forwards, but can be on a slight angle outwards. Front foot, turn inwards, 45 degrees from the inside edge, not the outside edge, the inside edge. Shoulder width apart, knees bent, strong in the back leg, strong in the front leg. So it should be here. Some people do this a little bit wide, which again isn't incorrect. I actually prefer it as more as a defensive stance to protect the groin area. So if you were to be kicked, it would catch just in the thighs. Then as we move through, turning the front foot so it's nice and straight, keep that still. Step forwards, through, execute the hip. Turn the front foot, execute through, and hip. The reason I say turn the front foot is because from this position, when you turn the front foot, that helps the body weight move forwards, which then makes the Siriachi a little bit easier. So you turn the front foot forwards. That's Sanchin Datchi. Pigeon toe stance because of where the front foot's placed, or hourglass stance based on how the body is. Next stance, Nekolashi cat stance. One shoulder width long in this stance, front foot. You're shaping the foot so that you have a straight line from knee to the knuckle of the big toe. Heels in line, knees forwards. 99.99999% of the weight is on the back leg. The only weight you've got on this front leg is literally the leg itself. Then as you move, collapse the front foot, 45 degrees, and step straight through. One thing to avoid with this stance is having to step either around or step over. So when you collapse, it should be there, back foot straightens, and that should just glide straight through. Collapse, straightens, should glide straight through. You would generally go backwards in this stance. You do with it with all kata. You always retreat with cat stance. You always go forwards in Sanchin Datchi. So from here again, sinking nice and low, guarding position. Try to stay the same height. Final stance is Kokutsu Datchi, back stance. Similar family to Zenkutsu Datchi, where you would have Zenkutsu Datchi, you've got 70% of the weight on the front leg. Kokutsu Datchi, 70% of the weight on the back leg. So again, I think I've shown this in a blocking video, but I'll just do it again for the purpose of this. Heels in line, guarding position, don't force the hips, natural angle on the hips. And from this position here, pushing the weight downwards, but you need to have the weight behind you as well, not forwards. I'll do the sideways on view in a second. And then when you step up, stay the same height, step up feet together, step back, execute the heel. From here, one, step. Try and notice if you can the back foot, the foot's pointing straight forwards, heel at the end. One, step, two. This is the way I'd teach it if I was breaking it down for a student. But as we can see, that all happens at the end. It all happens together, regardless of how you're moving forwards and backwards, in and out. Sideways on view, two shoulders. Remember, if you need to get two shoulders, keep it then into Kokutsu Datchi. And again, don't force the hip forwards, because it negates the back leg. Then if you force the hip backwards, it negates the front leg. It's got to be a natural 45 degrees. Don't force it. And again, you would combine this with Shuto Uke. The other thing you would do is with Sanchin, you combine Shuki Uke, and with cat stance, you can combine Kaki Uke. You can also combine Mawashi Uke with Sanchin. You can also combine it with cat stance if you wish.